Hi friends. So I want to talk some more about the fear of the Lord because I think this is worth exploring. Psalm 128 verses 1 to 2 say, "Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in his ways. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours." So the fear of the Lord is a fear that draws you in rather than driving you away. I think that's what really struck me. I mean, look at this grammatically. Who walk in his ways. So it's a clause giving information about the subject, all, or those who fear the Lord, right? So those who fear the Lord, which are those who walk in his ways, are blessed. So if we think about what it might mean to walk in someone's ways, I think more is implied than just trembling obedience or subjugation. To walk in his ways means to walk in his footsteps, to follow his example, to willfully, intentionally follow his lead and imitate the way he does things. The same phrase is used in the historical records in 1st and 2nd Chronicles and 1st and 2nd Kings when the summary of a king's reign is given. They're usually held up to the standard of kings who came before, usually David, judged on how closely they imitated the way he lived and ruled. The good kings like Josiah are said to have walked in the ways of his father David. The bad kings are sometimes described as walking the ways of kind of the OG baddie Ahab, or it simply says they did not walk in the ways of David. But to walk in the ways of someone, to follow and imitate them, means you have to know them. It implies a familiarity with those ways. It means you study them, try to be close to them. Like the old Jewish saying, "May you be covered in the dust of your rabbi." It implies a willingness to be close to the one you're following. It's a willing submission not only to their rule, but to their influence. And this is what those do who fear the Lord. See, it struck me because usually fear drives you away. If we're afraid of something, our instinct is to run from it. If I see a bear, I'm not going to walk towards it. I'm certainly not going to follow it. But this fear, the fear of the Lord, it's not just a trigger for our fight or flight instinct. It's a fear that draws us in, that makes us want to be close enough to follow, to imitate, to be covered in the dust he makes as he walks. I think it's more like the fear we might feel at the edge of the ocean. It's so vast and mysterious and powerful, but somehow so inviting at the same time. I mean, you're looking at the surface of an environment you couldn't naturally survive in, like the very holiness of God, but you want to dip your toes in the water. You know the waves can and have demolished whole cities, but you want to play in them. And if you've gone like boogie boarding or body surfing, it's such a joyful, childlike thing to let the waves move you towards the shore. And somehow the danger of it is part of the enjoyment. It's a fear mixed with fascination and awe. I would much rather face the danger as well as the joy and beauty of the ocean, even if it makes me a little afraid. I would prefer that to wading in a kiddie pool where I feel perfectly safe and in control. And I think that's a key element of the fear of the Lord. Not the feeling of threat to my well-being, but the threat to my sense of control. I think the closer we get to God, the more aware we must become that he is sovereign and holy, and we are not. That is a frightening thing to face. But it is a fear that draws you in because what you gain in exchange for your right to yourself, your sense of control, is the childlike joy of playing in the waves and so much more. Those who fear God are those who know him and love him and want to walk in his ways, to be covered in the dust of his steps, because they recognize it is infinitely better to tremble at the nearness of his beauty and goodness and love and joy and majesty than to be unmoved anywhere else. Jesus said life eternal is to know God, to walk near to him. And I think to fear him is part of that because that's simply what it is to know him and recognize who he is. But that is what we aim for, to know him. There's certainly more that can be said about the fear of the Lord, and I'm sure it'll come up again. But if you'd like a great resource to think more about this, I highly recommend the book Rejoice and Tremble by Michael Reeves. I'll put a link in the description if you'd like to check that out. Until next time, go in peace, walk in love.